There are so many brands that are really championing this, isn't there, and leading the way.
It does still feel like a tick box for many businesses. I don't believe that there should be targets for diverse hires. I believe in widening the gate, getting as much talent through, putting your adverts in places where diverse talent will look. And naturally, those numbers will shift. But the moment you start saying we need to have 50-50 hiring of male, female, I think that's where you've lost the argument.
Welcome to In The Mixx, People and Talent, the podcast where we dive into stories, challenges and successes shaping the world of HR and talent. Each episode, we sit down with the people behind the company, HR leaders, talent experts and business innovators to uncover what really drives great teams and thriving workplaces.
We have a tradition on the podcast.
Okay.
And what we do is we type our guest's name into ChatGPT
Oh, God.
and ask it for an overview of them. So I'm going to read out what ChatGPT has given us on Nerida.
Really?
Have you ever ChatGPT?
No, never. I wouldn't have thought ChatGPT would know who I am. But
Well, you'll be surprised. Here we go.
Okay, here we
Strap
go.
yourself in. Nerida Rooney is the Global Head of Talent Acquisition at the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, where she is spearheading a global transformation of their recruitment and talent strategies. With over 2 decades of experience in talent acquisition, she has worked across a wide range of sectors, including construction, education, not-for-profit, FMCG, and utilities. Her career has been defined by a strong focus on employer branding, diversity and inclusion, and strategic resourcing. Prior to joining RICS, she served as the Global Head of Employer Brand and Strategic Resourcing at Kier, where she led initiatives to attract underrepresented talent into the construction industry. It carries on.
Oh, God.
Nerida is widely recognised within the talent acquisition community. She's an RL 100 member, a regular speaker at high-profile events like RecFest, and has judged industry accolades such as the IHR and IHR Supplier Awards. She was also named in the In-House Talent Acquisition Leader of the Year. At RICS, she continues to drive a progressive approach to hiring by embedding inclusive practices, promoting strong employee value proposition, and leveraging data and technology to modernise recruitment. Her work reflects a deep commitment to building meaningful careers and fostering inclusive, future-ready talent pipelines.
Boom.
That's really lovely. Thank you, chat. Maybe a little bit emotional, though, because I think you forget all the stuff that you've sort of achieved or what you're doing, because obviously, you know, it's just day-to-day life, isn't it? Just balancing as best you can, but that's...
You can almost take it for granted a little bit.
You
can't
can, definitely.
We'll frame that.
Frame that for me. I'll put it up. My husband will be like,
Brits,
what's that?
We find it really hard, don't we, to
Yeah.
actually be like, you know what, I did good. Or,
Yeah.
Say
"Look
nice
what I
things."
achieved."
Yeah, but as an Aussie, I feel like it's harder for us as well, because I just think everything that we do is so laid back. So actually, if you started talking about yourself like somebody would probably sweary or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll have a
I
couple.
think it's a bit like that in
Yeah.
the UK too. When we go to the States, we love it.
Oh yeah.
You're just high energy there.
amazing.
Yeah, they look
Yeah.
back even if you've done something terrible.
Yeah.
They're like, it's okay, man. Like,
You can do it.
But I thought that was a pretty good... Would
Oh.
you say that's a good representative of...
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely, isn't it? Like, I've definitely achieved a lot in my career, and I am incredibly grateful because I've definitely worked with some phenomenal brands, and learned a lot along the way. So yeah,
Good.
it's nice.
less that. Well, this one's a little bit different today, Nerida, because you are going to be a huge part of In The Mixx, our newly launched community, which we are just building up to. So we soft launched. You're going to be a massive part of the hard launch. So what that looks like, what that means, and from past experience from you, why you think it's so important to build communities. Certainly not something we've kind of plucked up overnight. It's something we've been building towards now for a good 4+ years.
I mean, we've spoke
Yeah.
many times.
Many times over the
And
years.
you were a huge part of one of our events, actually, weren't you? A couple of years ago, one of our first events,
Yeah.
that employee
Yeah,
value proposition, and you stepped in
I did.
relatively last minute.
Yeah, that's
and
okay.
smashed it.
Yeah.
So I think from there we've just grown, haven't we, in terms of like the idea and where we want it to go. So I think a really good place to start, Nerida, is to talk a little around communities and why you think they're so important and how impactful they are.
Yeah, I mean, communities are everything. If I think about my own career, I value the communities and the relationships that I've built so much. And I think we can, we do take it for granted if we think about, just as a recruiter, it's in our blood, you're constantly on the phone, talking to candidates, trying to put them in the right opportunities. We need to do that for ourselves in those communities, meeting different people. And I've been fortunate to be amongst some fabulous communities and peer groups throughout my career. And I definitely wouldn't be in the position I am now if it wasn't for them. I value those relationships so much. I'll attend a summit and, talk at a round table. And I think it sort of made me realize, actually, I can do this, or I can deliver that, or actually, I've been doing that for 4 or 5 years. So I can help, impart some of that knowledge to the next up and coming person that's might be feeling a little bit of that imposter syndrome and not sure if they're ready for that next step. So yeah, I think communities are everything. So I'm super excited about what you guys are going to deliver and achieve, and actually the careers that you're going to develop along the way. You'll be able to see, in 5 years' time, those founding members or those founding parts of the community, and actually watching their careers grow. Honestly, it will bring so much joy, and I'm excited to be part of it.
One of the most desired skills to have when you take on new employees this day and age, aside from qualification and your backdrop, it's that ability or that desire to want to develop personally. And I feel that most organizations don't really offer that. There's the standardized training packs and trainers to come in, and it's rolled out and it's kind of one for everyone, isn't it? But there's no real opportunity for people to leverage their own personal development in a safe space where they can bounce ideas, everything that you've just shared in a nutshell. Can you think back to a particular time where that has really shone through for you and enabled you to kind of just take it on board yourself?
I mean, many times I've sort of sat in a session, and I mean, I really we work on Chatham House rules in many of the communities that we do, and that helps people be able to be really vulnerable in that situation. So many times where I've sat there and thought, actually, do you know what? Yeah, I'm in the right place of where I need to be, learning from these amazing people. And there'll be somebody on the other side probably thinking the same thing about maybe something that I've sort of talked to them about. We don't value, I don't believe, we don't value enough that personal development and setting time aside for that. There is no one size fits all. I think people learn very differently. I personally have never ever been the sort of person that could just read a textbook and be able to take that information in. I can't take it in. I'll be watching the dots on the page moving around rather than actually reading the text. So for me, I value being able to learn from people in person. And I think about, I think early in our career, when we, if there was somebody that was doing really well in their job and you'd listen to them on the phone, how do they interact with those candidates? It's like, oh, is that how they do it? Is that how they say? I learned so much from those people. So why do we continue to think that having a trainer come in and maybe give us a session to go, oh, great, they're going to be amazing at this now because they've had that training session? That's not what it's about. It's ongoing development. It's, having mentors. It's being able to get insight from different people that will help people develop longer term.
I feel like post-COVID, during COVID, obviously everything changed.
Yes.
Right? You wasn't allowed to go out and be face-to-face. But I feel like post-COVID, we were still kind of in the digital era where everything was still online.
Yeah.
But I feel like at the moment, there seems to be a real want for people to come out of the office and almost like get your head out of the sand, like you said, be able to hear other people, kind of see the whites of their eyes, learn, develop. And I think just touching on what you said, I can imagine being in your industry in the early days to be able to get exposed to like industry leaders and sit with them, hear them, talk to them. It's kind of that you can't quantify how much you take from that.
100%.
Yeah,
I fangirled a lot growing up and watching just people go, oh my God, they're doing what I want to do. And you look back now and think, oh yeah, actually, they were achieving a lot back then. There is absolutely, a lot to be said for in-person collaboration. However, I do think that there is a bit of a balance. You know, I know many people that have actually really valued that sort of quiet zones and the safety of their own home and being able to, interact on Teams. And, I work for a global business, so we can't just fly over and have a conversation with a candidate. So we often have conversations on Teams. And I do think some organisations are certainly trying to revert more to that, like back into the office piece. It does need to be a fine balance because one size does not fit all. 100%. And different learning styles need different environments. And unless your office space is built with lots of quiet zones, stand-up desks, meeting rooms that are quiet-proof. Lots of companies do, they'll create new meeting spaces, but they're not quiet-proof, certainly for talent and HR leaders. And naturally, we're louder, aren't we? So we're on the phone, everyone's hearing it. So
you could say that. That's really interesting hearing you say that because, firstly, off the back of some of our earlier day events that we've hosted, we've then had clients come along and say, oh my God, there's such and such over there.
Yeah.
We've been speaking about this particular topic. So they've met at our event, haven't they? Collaborated from that. And then they instantly got a buddy and a rapport built with someone in that room. Face-to-face networking isn't for everyone. And what we do with the Mixx events is a lot different to just going into a networking event where you kind of stand up, do your pitch, and it's like it can give some people a bit of the ick, right? Maybe not everyone.
When there's no topic and no agenda and it's just kind of a lot of small talk. But I think also with the events and the community, it's more structured and focused in terms of the industry. And I guess some of them have kind of keynotes and particular subjects and stuff like that, right?
But I think it's, when you go to the Mixx events, you turn up and yes, you might see people that you've met at previous events or actually just in work in general. But it doesn't feel daunting. Walking into a room and there's like a load of people. It doesn't feel like I'm that little person sort of walking in. Everybody is so welcoming, and even when I've seen people walking on their own, I'm like, hi, nice to meet you. I'll go up to them just to check in on them because I can see that they've come in on their own. Everybody does that, and it's nice that people feel valued in that space. Because if they feel valued in that space, they'll feel that they can talk up when it's their moment, or somebody's asking a question and it's like, oh, tell me about, have you ever dealt with this? And like, oh yes, I have. And so it just gives them that, it empowers them to be able to speak up, for sure.
Yeah, I noticed there's a couple of clients that love the Mixx events, right? They come along, but if you try and integrate them into conversation, they're like, no, like just let
different learning styles.
I'm trying to learn. I will make connection, but in my own time. Don't kind of force it upon me. And we're all different, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously more of an extrovert, so I get that. But I've got so many people in my team that, definitely more introverted. And we talk about, if you're going to a speaking session, like you're going to stand up and speak on a stage, they couldn't think of anything worse than speaking to 300 people. Like that terrifies them. And we need to understand that there'll be people in that room that are terrified with, just somebody asking them a question.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like any of the events that we've been to or that you guys have put on, that somebody has felt that they're not able to be themselves there. I think 100%. That's the bit. I think people are able to be themselves.
Do you know what I think works really well? The panel which you were involved in.
That was lovely.
Because everyone can interact. The crowd gets going.
Yeah.
And
the crowd,
normally when you're
lots of questions,
you have a speaker or one speaker to the audience. So, any questions, and people find it on the last that they don't put their hand up. Yeah. But it's like one person asks a question, it's just free flow. And we've got a panel of 3 or 4 people. Yeah. You did that really well. Nitin, who also used on the panel for AI, haven't he? So the feedback on him was amazing. I think that does help when you've got someone that's really, really like genuine, comes across quite approachable panel. So we'll definitely be doing more of that.
I love that.
The podcast as well. So we've got some really, really good guests lined up.
This podcast.
For all my listeners out there, In The Mixx is designed. Actually, Chris, I'm going to let you tell this one because
thanks.
I do a bit too much talking. So, Chris, I'm going to hand over to you. What is In The Mixx? What does that look like?
Well, I feel like this is my moment to shine, right? Well, I think essentially, kind of we we were hosting events and creating a HR talent people community without even really meaning to do it, right?
Yeah.
We were hosting events on key topics. Some of the ones we've done employee value proposition, you were on that one.
Yeah.
AI within HR and talent. We've recently done International Women's Day, which is a little bit off of our normal subject, and across, I think we've done 5 events in the last 2.5 years, and basically we'd had over 350 people attend.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of them were regular attendees. I think around 60 of them had been on to pretty much all of them, hadn't they? So Gemma and I just spoke about it, and we was like, I feel like, and the more we were speaking to our clients and prospect clients, they were saying that actually that 2-3 hours out of the office, taking their head out of the sand, and they just felt like they were getting so much from it.
Yeah.
And there seemed to be a real need for more. I know that you're from a global talent acquisition team, but from a SME perspective, where there is only one person in HR and maybe one person in talent, or, you've got HRD and an HR admin to help out, they felt like when they come up against complex problems, who was they going to get advice off, or who were they soundboarding from? So the more Gemma and I spoke about it, we're just like, this is like a no-brainer for us. Like, we're bringing people together anyway, let's just formalise it. And then I guess essentially what we wanted to do was, we didn't want it to be like, oh, look, there's a recruitment agency putting on an event. Throw up in your own mouth. No offence, but if you do take offence, and we're talking about you. but from our perspective, it's about adding value and people being able to come to the events and learn, build their network, know that if they need support, there's people there. So, like I said, formalised it, made it In The Mixx, so it's not Mixos, the recruitment agency. In The Mixx is the HR and talent community, and then obviously we've launched an advisory board, which you are a founding member of, because again, I think, it'd be good to hear from your side how you found us initially having that conversation and why you wanted to come on board, and what it was about In The Mixx. Because obviously you've been in part of some big communities within the talent space. Yeah. So, why in your right mind did you want to partner with a recruitment agency? Do you know what? We're not a recruitment agency, because we talk to the team all the time like recruitment agency. Like,
they're partners. Agencies are partners of ours.
We're a recruitment consultancy. Yeah. There's a difference. Yeah. But it'd be good to hear from your side what your thoughts were. And
look, I mean, I've sort of had lots of different companies reach out to me, certainly over the last 5 years, to sort of, sit on either advisory boards or to help them sort of, pivot in a different area. But I think, what you're both doing is something that I fundamentally believe in, those communities and being able to empower people to connect with each other and therefore develop their own careers beyond that. So you're just the vessel that's bringing people together. And I love that. You talked before about, the SMEs. I've worked in organisations before where, budgets are tight. Like, let's be honest, we're all having to get involved in lots of stuff that's outside of talent acquisition, because you're literally having to just do everything because there's no budgets there. Yes, that helps develop you, but actually, when you go to some of, big fancy events and, there's people up there speaking, you're watching them present to you knowing they've got more budget than me, so this is a waste of my time. But when you go to the In The Mixx events, you're sort of learning from others where they've had to pivot, they've had to be creative with budgets and produce some phenomenal things with, an Apple, other phones are available, a camera, a phone camera, and what they've been able to do from an attraction perspective is just phenomenal. So I'm excited, to take this forward with the other board members, because I genuinely feel like you guys are moving in a really great direction. I always say agencies are strategic partners, because you're part of the work that we do. We couldn't deliver on our strategy if we didn't have the partners to help us. I really value those relationships that we have. In whatever talent leader role I'm in, I will always value those relationships with our strategic partners.
What made you get into recruitment? The world of talent, it's such a minefield, firstly.
Well, I think a good place to start with, because we always forget that you're from Australia, don't
Yes.
we? I think you
Yeah.
said earlier about us Brits. but-
The accent is not very good, is it? Let's be honest. It's a little twang, and the slower I talk, the more it comes out. But no, I am an Aussie. I've been here 16 years, and you know, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I left school. You know, I felt quite lost. I'd applied for an Indigenous traineeship, so I'm Indigenous myself, and I just applied thinking, I'll give it a go. What, you know, it was at the University of Newcastle. All my friends were going to uni, so I was like, oh, it's the next best thing. I get paid. They have to pay for their own degree. Like, hello. So yeah, I really sort of thought I'll go for it. And on one of my first days, because I was in the HR department, the director at the time said, look, I'm going to be doing some interviewing. Like, would you like to come and shadow? And I was like, yes, please. Let me sit on this side, because obviously I'd been on the other side when they interviewed me. And
Curious.
I was naturally very curious, but one of the questions that they asked, which I think was quite bold back then. I mean, this is over 20 years ago, but they asked what their salary expectations were. I'm a nosy cow. So I was like, I couldn't believe that we could ask that. And even 20 years ago, it just wasn't something that you asked, you know, what were they looking from a salary perspective? But the fact that we could ask that and I could know what everybody earned, I loved that.
Do you know what, I think even to this day now, it's still a little bit,
Oh, yeah.
when you say like, I phrase it in such a way that it doesn't seem so demanding that I need to know what you're earning.
See, I don't think it's about what people are earning now. I always ask about their expectations because what you're earning now is irrelevant because you might be in an organisation that's smaller, that might have less layers. The scope of the role might be completely different, but actually,
You might be getting underpaid.
Yeah,
You might be
you
getting
just-
overpaid.
different industries pay, you know, not as well. Charities, for example, you know, other sectors like, you know, tech pay a lot more. So actually, understanding what their salary expectation is how I've always continued to phrase it, and that is because that person 20 odd years ago said the same thing. But yeah, I loved knowing what people earn. So I sort of stuck at it. And the fact that I could do my career in Australia and then came to the UK during the recession, who does that? Like, who does that?
So it was 2008?
2008, yeah, came just around that period. And I just really struggled trying to find my feet here. Because it's very different. Recruitment here is very different than in Australia.
I imagine.
And so, yeah, went to Goldsmiths College, managed to get a great opportunity working in their HR department, bumped into Princess Beatrice. She was there and she told me I had nice shoes. I remember that.
It'll stick with you forever.
Stick with me forever. Yeah, her security life, what's going on? But yeah, so I've just sort of continued my career. I've worked with some phenomenal, you know, charities, Save the Children, Amnesty International, Refuge. So some really brilliant charities that are really values-led organisation.
Was that at the start?
This was in the start, yeah, being here in the UK. And then I had my daughter, and then I went and worked at Carlsberg for 5 years, which I loved. I love the FMCG environment. Like I love the brand. I felt really proud being able to say I work for Carlsberg because it was, you know, it's such a phenomenal business, and you know, they've merged with so many amazing people, businesses now. Obviously, they've merged with Britvic recently, but really great business, global business, and it was just a nice, easy sell for candidates. You know, it's easy to sell that.
And Carlsberg as well, they've done a lot with their marketing, right?
Of course,
because everyone
probably
said
the best.
if Carlsberg did recruitment,
Yeah. I mean, it's easy, isn't
be
it?
Mixos.
Oh, there you go.
Cringe. But no, they've done a lot with their marketing,
have,
haven't they?
yeah.
And, you know, and
They've got some phenomenal talent there as well. I think people forget that, you know, when you go to the pub and you know, they're pulling a pint, there is more that goes beyond those beer brands, cider brands, whoever. There is so much that goes behind making sure that us as the consumer choose them. And I think, you know, if we think about that from In The Mixx, there'll be more than just the name and the events.
It's the byproduct, isn't
There
it?
you go.
What we do.
100%.
Yeah.
It's all of those consultative added touches,
Yeah.
all the stuff we're doing, panning out the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were talking about Carlsberg and then you started talking about all of the things that go on behind the scenes, I then automatically started thinking about AU Vodka.
Oh,
and what
yeah.
they've done with that brand.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
the way they've built that, because they're really vocal on LinkedIn, and I think they do a lot of YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Have you watched any of this?
I've not watched any of
You should
that,
watch
but
them.
obviously
It's
I
like
know the
behind
brand.
doors.
Yeah.
It's like it's really, really good
Look
stuff.
at Brewdog.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brewdog.
Marketing at
There-
its finest.
There
Those
is
guys are unreal.
there is so many fabulous brands in FMCG that don't get the airtime that they deserve, because there is some like little microbreweries and things like that. I'm so fascinated by it. So, but yeah, I'm fortunate. I've worked for some phenomenal brands, and I feel incredibly grateful.
So how long did you take out? So you had your first child.
Yes, had my first child. So I had Mia. I went back to work. I went to Carlsberg. So actually, I worked at Refuge while I was very heavily pregnant, and did the tube ride and the train ride, like literally the day before I dropped, which was fun. So I actually finished the contract. So I was a contractor there. So I took probably 6 months out when I had Mia. And then I had Finn at the end of my Carlsberg sort of time, and took about a year out. So yeah. And then went to Kia Group, the construction company, not the car group, because we get it all the time. Kia, it's just dodgy accent. And actually that business, from a construction point of view, they are delivering some of the most amazing infrastructure across the UK. A very big business. Again, an easy business to sell into, because, most of the competitors knew who you were. So it was an easy sell, but there are so many things that go on behind the scenes in order to get candidates across the line. If we think about, attracting diverse talent, predominantly white male industry, the work that I did during my time there, I feel incredibly proud of. We had some phenomenal campaigns, people campaigns. Our Making Ground program, which is our prison program, just bringing more diverse talent into the organisation was, something that I'm incredibly proud of. And there's some phenomenal people that work over there.
There are so many brands that are really championing this, isn't there, and leading the way and just ripping up the script.
Yeah, and
to try and bring in those diverse
it
candidates.
It needs to be more than a tick box, and it does still feel like a tick box for many businesses. I don't believe that they should be targets for diverse hires, because actually you won't know that they're a diverse hire until they get through to the end. And if they share their diversity information, diverse talent often don't share it until right at the end. So I believe in widening the gate, getting as much talent through, diverse talent, doing really good advertising, attraction strategies, making sure that you're, putting your adverts in places where diverse talent will look, so having really good programs to support those. If you widen the gate, you'll get more candidates through, and naturally those numbers will shift. But the moment you start saying we need to have 50-50 hiring of male, female, I think that's where you've lost the argument.
Two-stage.
Yeah, it's the right person for the job.
100%.
Or first and foremost, the right person for the job. Let's make sure that they are, equipped to be able to perform well in that interview. If you're able to, in your organisation, to give candidates the interview questions in advance, that's not going to, give them the answers to your questions. That's giving them, certainly those neurodiverse candidates, giving them just a level playing field. You're not giving them the answer. You still want them to answer them. So there's little things like that that talent leaders can do to just widen that gate more.
I think the landscape's completely changed, isn't it? I think COVID, for all of its badness, if you think about the way of work the world we live in 2025 now, it's completely changed.
Yeah.
It's almost like sped everything up by 15, 20 years, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And I think, especially where we live in terms of geographics, we're close to Luton, close to Bedford, close to Milton Keynes. It's, the most diverse towns, well, Luton especially,
Absolutely.
one of the most diverse towns in the country, and it's just there's such the talent pools that we could tap into if people were kind of eyes wide open.
Absolutely.
And I think it's just some people, they're so quick to rule people out when actually they don't really look behind the curtain and see what's actually going on.
Yeah, and I think, we need to do more strength-based interview questions. Like, we're still stuck in this competency-based interview process. So we definitely need to do more strengths-based and skills-based questions.
100%.
But I think actually, if we talk about that return to work, like return to the office mandate, that impacts, diverse groups more. If you think about where your head office is, likely London or Birmingham or wherever, being able to get around as somebody who may, have a wheelchair or, may have anxiety to get on the tube. So there's all of those things that employers aren't thinking of, and that massively constricts the talent pool that you're getting. If you had more hybrid opportunities, or if you had more flexible working, you could attract talent from so much further on. And we saw that with COVID. People were being hired from all over the UK for fabulous opportunities. And some of this return to the office mandate will constrict that for sure.
You still get a lot of people that are working 100% remote. Sorry, but not as many as in COVID. We still come across them, but it is insightful to think about if you have more of a remote model, the amount of talent that you can attract. The one that I don't understand is when it's a super niche role.
Yeah.
But they have to be in the office.
Yeah.
And it's like...
You're going to... needle. And you guys are the ones that we often go to, because we're like, we can't find them, can you? And they're like...
You're asking the impossible, but let's give it a shot.
We like to have a challenge.
It's I find the subject fascinating, and we can go well off topic here. I think it's a podcast for another day. But I think one of the things that I would say maybe holds companies back is that actually we live in a world today where you can't be vulnerable and talk about things that you don't know, especially when it comes to race, gender, and disability, anything around them topics, because people are fearful of getting the finger pointed at them.
Of course.
And I always say, and me and Gemma talk about it quite a lot, is that actually, we joke and say, when we're on holiday, don't tell people we're from Luton. But actually, I'm really proud of Luton, because actually the amount of people that I grew up with from all different walks of life has really shaped who I am today. And I don't judge people whether they're a cleaner or whether they're run a multi-million £1 business. For me, it's about how you treat people.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things we've done really well here at Mixx is we do blind CV sending.
Amazing.
So actually we have interview slots up front, and they don't get to see the CV till like a couple of hours before.
Yeah.
It's a game changer. Do you know what? It is really uncomfortable, and
it is. I am like,
whoa. But really, give you control over my diary? And actually, one of our biggest advocates, and it's been like a ripple effect. It's a huge organisation. He was like, I can't do this. Just trust us to do it. And then he's given us the most glowing reference ever.
I love
Has
that.
got so many different line managers now to use us, and loves the way we're working, doesn't he?
Yeah, and recently we just had an offer come in, I think it was last week, and the line manager actually rang and spoke to us and said, do you know what, I've got to be honest, I wouldn't have sold that person if you sent their CV to me.
Oh, do you know what?
And we were like, that's the
why.
reason we don't send you the CV.
The CVs are like... They aren't great. Like, let's be... They do not...
GPT.
I think nowadays, they're getting a lot worse.
They are. And it doesn't show the real person. I mean, I massively advocate all of my line managers to have, 15-minute virtual chat with that candidate to say, like, to learn more about them, what makes them them. And this is probably why I love more around that strength-based interview style, because it gives the candidate more of an opportunity to shine, because they don't shine on CVs. And look, we see hundreds and hundreds of CVs a day. We're skimming them. We're not able to read everything because there is so many that we're having to see. So we need to give candidates that opportunity to shine, and being able to, you guys are the ones that will be having the conversations with the candidates. If more managers can open up their diary because they trust you, because that you understand their business, you understand their strategy, you understand what they're trying to deliver and achieve, then you're going to get that long-term relationship, but you'll also get that longevity in that candidate as well. So I love that. Good on you.
I feel like we've got a new generation of line managers though that are a little bit more open and are a little bit more, gone are the days, you mentioned it earlier about, mid to late 40 white British men that are like, it has to be this way. And then when you say, why does it have to be that way?
Yeah.
Well, because it does.
Yeah.
Okay, but why?
That's the way we've always done it.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, let's continue to do that.
I feel like...
I think as humans, people are programmed, aren't they? They are all programmed. Unless you are consciously unwiring the brain and pushing against the grain, you're just going to go with what you've always done because that's what I've done. That's what my employer's always done. These are the processes you have in place. And it's really hard to go against the norm and to feel uncomfortable.
I always refer to my CV. I look at my CV before I got hired for my first... Why are you laughing?
That was great.
Do you know something about my CV that I don't?
Recruiters and their CVs are awful.
No, but I was a floor layer. I was like laying carpets all around the UK.
You've still got crap floors at home.
Oh, God.
It's on the
Here
list.
we
It's
go.
on the list.
This is unbelievable.
They are nice.
Are you two all right, yeah? We're going to get back to the podcast stuff.
I've got a really quite deep-rooted question for you.
Okay.
You have excelled incredibly well in your career and you're an inspiration to me and to many women around. You have 2 children which you raised. How have you done it? How have you future-proofed your career? How did you ensure that when you went off and took time out for maternity that you came back? Let's be honest, some of us get hit with, crazy hormones and confidence crises and things like that. How have you got to where you've got now? That's not just luck. And anyone that says it is, I don't believe.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not just luck. I mean, I've worked incredibly hard. I've got a fabulous husband who is so supportive.
What's his name?
Mark.
Big up Mark.
Big up Mark. So yeah, it's super supportive and has allowed, me to take risks. I think that's the thing. He's massively supportive in all of that. I've got my mother-in-law. She's 82, bless her. And she is, she's just phenomenal. She looks after the kids, for us, when we need to do bits and pieces. I work from home a lot with her at the home because obviously she's needs help opening up bits and pieces, pills and all that sort of stuff. So, but we are a family unit. We support each other. But yeah, it's not easy. Balancing. Missing stuff at school like that really hurts me. So for me, I've always wanted more flexibility than chasing the dollar or the pound.
And that is a really hard juggle. I wouldn't even call it balance. So there is no such thing as balance because if you're missing a meeting in the boardroom to be at the school, or you're at the school and you miss, it's either one or the other that takes a hit, isn't it?
It is.
It's a real juggle. I
always say, so obviously I'm at home. Gemma's like extremely disciplined and highly organised. It's like if it's not in the diary, it doesn't count. Whereas I'm like, I'm going to play golf tomorrow. No, by the way,
You didn't put that in the diary.
Yeah, I don't really play golf. I'm saying, for example,
might be now.
or it'd be like a Friday, like, I'm going to go and watch football tomorrow.
Yeah,
Gemma's like, well, you didn't say that. And it's like, well,
and you've got everything planned for it.
Like you're there everywhere.
But I feel like we have to, as mums, we have to put everything in the diary. The amount of paperwork we get from schools, you need to have this for culture day. You need to have this
in itself.
It is. And look, when I had Mia, I remember my husband came home from work and I was in tears and I didn't even say anything to him. I just handed him Mia and walked off because I remember thinking my life had completely changed. I was no longer called Nerida. I was just Mia's mum. And that was such a big switch for me, but nothing changed for him. And he didn't even he was like, I'm here for you. He was so supportive. But that's just how I felt. And that's probably why I went back to work so quickly with Mia, because I was so desperate to feel...
Have an identity.
Yeah, to have an identity again. And that's why I balance the way I balance now and why I, value that family time more than, climbing the ladder and, being on... I wouldn't want to be a CPO, for example. That wouldn't be on my bucket list. I would rather be able to go to sports days and, parent-teacher evenings. That's what I hold more value in.
I think you're teaching Mia as well without even her knowing, without you knowing and without her knowing. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Jamie Edwards at our event said that your children are the front row view of your life without you even knowing.
Yes.
So if you do something, they do something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a few road rages recently, and I've just been no, not me, like other people.
The kids have seen it.
And the window's been down, and they've been, shouting and screaming as heads just like,
what's going on? Yeah.
And I just am so calm and collected, and he's just like, okay.
I would cry.
And then we'll talk about things. I'll pick it after, and I'm like, do you see the response that Mum got from that? Just by not being a dickhead back? And
yeah.
Like, yeah, I get it. I want them to be able to control.
We must say that Gemma's driving is a bit questionable at times.
Gemma's emotional control is bang
No,
on.
she is good. She is good. Yeah, she is good. I think it's because people undo the window and expect a confrontation, right? But if you just kind of kill it from the offset, they're not used to it. They're like, "What's going on here?"
Good luck. Yeah.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah.
We've gone from parenting to road rage to everything.
This is the free.
Other question. So, if you look ahead at the talent industry, what would you say is one of the biggest disruptors that's either here or on its way?
I mean, look, everyone's going to say AI, so I'm not even going to entertain that, because I think that has a place. We do need to automate more. We do need to think about how we can remove some of the processes. But I think the biggest disruptor will be how talent leaders shift that dial. If I think about talent acquisition roles, even 10 years ago, it was just talent acquisition. My role over the last 10 years has encompassed leading on DEI for the business, employer brand, workforce planning, succession planning, global reorg. I got involved in far more HR than I needed to. We are having to get involved in everything. So I think we need to probably find a way to make our space in that leadership room valued as much as a CPO is valued in what they do. Because actually so much of our work is the work that falls into the CPO's remit. I think that's the bit that we need to focus on moving forward. How do we make ourselves as accountable, or not as accountable, but have a voice that is heard? Because at the moment it feels very much like we are costing the business money by, more AI, more tech, different different processes that we need to bring in, agencies that we use, strategic partners that we use. So that's more of they just see that as a cost, but actually what is that value that we're putting on the business? Some of the metrics that we use, are very outdated. Cost per hire is so outdated because different businesses do cost differently. The hiring manager cost versus, this cost, but they lump it all in. But actually, the bits that I personally think a CPO is going to, or a CEO is going to want to know is how much is it costing my organisation to have that empty chair? Is that going to cost
me
more?
In a bad hire,
exactly.
Wrong hire. I think there are two from where we are sitting. There are two categories of staff, employee that tend to, I think, be less thought of in an organisation when it comes to cost cutting or where we spend our money. One is the HR and talent remit, sadly, and the other tends to be sort of marketing.
Yes.
And when you think about that, people are the running heartbeat of every single business. It's the one common thing that runs throughout every business, but it's quite often the most forgotten about when it comes to the touchy-feely, the personality, the behaviourals,
Absolutely.
How do we keep good people within our business? All of those areas sometimes are quite quickly overlooked.
They are.
But I think it also comes from the leader, right?
Absolutely.
If you've got a leader or a CEO that kind of really believes in it, that can kind of then trickles down to the rest of the organisation. But if you've got someone at the top that's, thinks, like you said, it's just an added cost, rather than seeing the value in it.
Absolutely.
I really feel that that can kind of steer how the rest of the business looks upon it?
Absolutely.
Because you must have worked in some that have been great and others that have not. Don't name, but
Yeah, I won't name.
I'm sure you have.
Don't
right?
get me in trouble.
No, but I mean, you must have worked in some that they really value it, and the whole
Absolutely.
organisation does.
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked with some incredible organisations that really value talent and the work that talent does, and equally, I've worked in some where it's like it's just a cost.
All they want to know is when that new starter's starting.
Absolutely.
And how quick did you get them in?
Exactly. Yeah. But actually, that retention piece is so critical. How are we inducting them? How are the managers making them feel valued? How are we making sure that they've got the right tools in order to do that job? Which isn't a TA thing that we should be leading on. That's a business thing.
How are you rejecting them candidates?
Yeah.
And how many people are they telling about their experience?
Yeah. But on the other thing, like, when people do leave, are we making them feel valued when they're leaving? Because we want those boomerangs. We want those back. But actually, many times, when people are, even an exit interview, that they're either not done or they're done by the manager and the person feels that they can't really say.
They can't open up.
Yeah, so I think those bits need to, boomerang candidates are, and boomerang employees are.
God, you're really plugging the Aussie now, aren't you?
Oh, yes, of course, yes. The accent finally comes out.
You say boomerang in 1 minute.
The accent could finally come out when I say boomerang.
I've got a really deep
another
deep
deep
today.
Getting for it.
Question for you.
Okay.
Biggest inspiration in your career?
I would probably say the people that believed in me before I believed in myself. That's going to make me cry.
Any names?
No, I won't name any names because they'll know who they are. And somebody's deciding to
That's
call
probably
me.
them ringing you. That's them ringing you now.
That's Mark.
Is that your husband?
I'll tell him off later. Yeah. I know.
Did you not put it on airplane?
I just put it on silent.
It's all right. We're raw. We won't even edit.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always a couple though, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, and they'll know exactly who they are. They've given me my break, but they believed in me. And look, I tell a lot of kids, certainly when it comes to sort of just pushing themselves out of their comfort zone, fake it till you make it. You can do that. Believe in yourself, because actually, just believing in yourself, it means that you're going to stand on that step.
You touched on it earlier when you was talking about the communities, and the first thing I thought about, because you said when people were talking, you're thinking, oh, I've already done that, or I'm doing that. And I can't remember what book I read it in, but it's about evidence stacking.
Okay.
So actually, you don't start believing in yourself and really kind of being the person you are until you start stacking the evidence along the way.
Yeah.
And it's only, like you said, so you go to this room full of HR and talent leaders and you're a bit like, oh my God.
Yes.
But actually when they start talking like, well, I'm doing that. Oh my
Yes.
God, I'm doing that. Actually, I'm really good. What's going on here?
Yeah, do you know what? That is that light bulb glass moment you think, and I have had that in the summits where I'm like, I am doing that. And we often don't believe in ourselves. So yeah, there is a couple of people that have been that for me throughout my career, and I feel incredibly grateful, because I think everybody needs that person that's just going to give them that little bit of confidence in that time when they may not have had that themselves.
Yeah,
100%.
We've all but one of them, haven't we? I know who yours is.
Do you?
He's like, don't say it on the podcast.
Chris got a shot, didn't he, from carpet fitting into recruitment, didn't he?
Yeah.
That was like a big old shift.
Mine was really tough,
Started on
actually.
like 16 grand, didn't you?
I started on 16 grand, 11 years ago. And I think it might have been 18 grand. I maybe say 16 to make people feel more sorry for me. But I was paying like 4 grand to get into London. But do you know what? It's actually the way it panned out weren't nice, because the lady that took a chance on me in recruitment, she was amazing and helped me scale and grow and develop myself and my skills. And then when I started Somnium before Mixx, I hired her to work for me. But then COVID hit it, and I was a new business owner, didn't have a clue, probably didn't deal with it very well. Now I don't speak to her anymore, and it's quite sad, actually.
You should reach out to her, because look, sometimes things like that can shape you,
100%.
but also, nobody knows exactly what people are going on behind the scenes. So I would reach out to them
100%.
Just because, be good, be kind.
I thought I'd share some of the bad stuff, because people see the good stuff.
They do see the fluffy stuff. But
let's move on from me anyway, because it's not about me. Best piece of career advice. I know you've just come from today. You've been at a school.
Yes,
giving
yeah,
some
I've done a
career
school
advice?
event. Yeah, I do a lot of school events, which I love because they don't know what they want to be.
Yeah.
And also there's so much pressure on them to be like to
Even
know.
more so now than when
Yeah.
we were kids, isn't there?
So, best career advice you've received
Yes.
and best piece of advice you would give.
Yeah. So the best career advice I've received is say yes to opportunities even if you think you're not ready for them. Because I think even just saying yes, like pushing yourself out of that comfort zone could be the best thing that you do. But if it's not the right thing, you have to recognize that and pivot. But yeah, I have had, like, I've stood on so many stages where I've literally been like the week before, oh, should I just cancel? Should I like that's too big for me? And I've done it and I've been like, it's fine. So I think you have to say yes, push yourself out.
You can learn later.
You can learn
later.
absolutely learning. You know, what's the worst? You know, if I say something, even in this podcast, if I say something that people don't agree with, that's okay. This is my opinion.
You let us know.
Yeah, just edit out. I was like, oh yeah, this
There's
is
no
raw. There
editing.
is no edits. Hence Mark's call. But no, and the piece of advice that I give kids, which obviously I don't even know if this is the best one for this podcast, but I always say to kids, when you first get your paycheck, when you're still living at home,
I know what you're going to say.
save half of your money.
Oh, I thought you were going to say spend it all.
No, and I tell you why, because, when you're living at home, you don't have all of those bills, you don't have that responsibility. But those shoes are not going to fit you very long. And that jacket that you're so desperate for is not going to fit you. And I look back at some of the stuff that I bought is such a waste. Like, because I came to the UK with a backpack. I sold everything. And the things that I've learned throughout, my personal life, I've learned so many things through traveling and meeting new cultures and meeting new people. And I wouldn't have done that if I didn't save to do that originally. And I wish I'd have saved more. I was earning cash in hand back in the day, which
I'll
was
tell you what, you
amazing.
come and do a session with my son then. He's got a Go Henry.
I love the Go Henry.
Right, so get this.
Yeah.
He gets pocket money that goes
Yes.
in and then he can shift it around and save it.
Yeah.
So his outstanding balance is a big fat zero and his savings, which he can't touch, is being stacked every time. So he moves the money
And then
he
he'll
doesn't spend his own money, saves it all.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, Mum, can I have some Robux, please?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, you've got money. I can't touch it.
can't
I'll put
touch
into
it.
my savings.
Smart kid. He knows what he's doing. I love that. Yeah, but it's. I think the other thing that we probably don't do enough in education, not just in the UK. I'm sure it's the same around the world, but we don't teach kids how to save, how to make money. Stocks and shares, all of that stuff. It's very much like you have to learn this as you get older. They should do that in school.
Let's not go on the education system.
No, but they should do that in school.
We could be here for 3
could be here for a
hours.
very
We've got
long
some
time.
strong views on that stuff.
Okay, good to know.
Final one then, Gem.
Final question of the day. So if you could change one thing in the talent acquisition space, what would that be?
Ooh. Do you know what? I'm not sure that there is a lot that I would. I would say, let me start again. There is something I would change. I would probably have more CPOs that have come via the talent route. I think many CPOs have come via a HR route. And there's very few that have come via the specialisms, whether that's reward, talent, L&D. And actually, we spend a lot of our time educating our peers or our boss on what talent is and how to get the best out of them. And there are some CPOs that are phenomenal and they get it and they understand it, but there are so many that have come via the traditional HR route that actually you have to educate them along the way. And I'd love to have, more people in that leadership role because I feel like they'll advocate more for talent in the boardroom for us.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
So it starts from within, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's like have you ever heard of the theory prevention is better than cure?
Yeah.
So you're almost preventing that situation rather than trying to change someone completely or trying to cure the problem
Yeah.
after it's already hit your business.
Yeah.
Love that one. Nerida, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Where can our listeners find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. So literally Nerida Rooney at the end of LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time because obviously a big part of my job. I'm often speaking at various events. I'm going to be hosting iHR Live in London in September. So yeah, I know. I'm very excited, hosting the headline stage. So yeah, very excited. But yeah, here, there and everywhere.
And you'll also be in the mix.
And I will always be in the mix, yes. We'll get all those dates on, and we'll definitely make sure we put more of those dates in podcast link for sure.
100%. Well, thank you.
For joining us.
Thank you.